Okay, so I'm going to show some mock-ups related to a new feature we'd like to add to Spotlight that we're calling multilingual exhibits, which from a single exhibit point of view just means we want to allow the curators of a given exhibit to be able to make their exhibit available to visitors in one or more languages in addition to the default language. So this first mock-up is proposing to add a new tab to our general configuration page. So this is the page that exhibit administrators use to set some basic settings like the title of the exhibit and the subtitle. And so on. So the idea is we'll add a new tab called Languages, and the exhibit administrator from this tab can choose languages from a drop-down list of languages that are available. And when a language is added, it gets shown in this table below. And these are then languages that are available for translation. And by default, they would be not public, with the assumption that the exhibit curators may want to work on their translations before allowing exhibit visitors to see the exhibit site in that language. When they do choose to make the language public, there'll be an additional language pull-down menu at the top of the brand bar at the top of the exhibit site that allow exhibit visitors to switch into any available public languages. Once the administrator has added a language, whether or not it's public, but once the language is added, then there'll be a new menu item under the curation menu here in the sidebar called Translations. And now if an exhibit administrator or a curator goes and clicks on the Translations menu item, they'll see this page. And this page has 5 tabs at the top. And we're on the first tab, which is General Labels. And most of these tabs work fairly similarly, or at least the first 3 are very similar. And the basic layout is we're showing the available text fields that can be translated in this sort of category. So general labels basically is representing labels that the exhibit visitors see no matter where they are on the website. And the general layout here is over here on the left, we have the label for the translatable field. And then the gray background is grouping together both an input and some text, which is the current value for that field in the default language. So they always have a reference to what they're translating. And then the input, of course, is where the curator would put in the translated value in the current language. And I forgot to mention up top here, these are based on what the exhibit administrator has added in terms of the languages. So we have Italian, Spanish, and French. Any language that's been added is shown here at the top in terms of buttons, and so we're in Italian right now. And just to be clear how the translations will work, quick example. In this example, the curator has translated the title, the subtitle, and the description. Those have been saved, so there's a little check to give a quick indicator of what's been translated. And then there's also, in the tabs, the plan is also to show a sort of a progress indicator for each category. So here we have 3 out of 7. That means there's 7, in this category, 7 potential translatable fields, and 3 of them have been translated. To to make it clear how these translations would be seen by exhibit visitors when the language is made public, just imagine these three have been translated, and then imagine that I think the last three of these main menu items have been translated. Now, if Italian was public in this language, when the exhibit visitors are on the site, they would see a language pull down with Italian, Spanish being the public languages that are available. And let's imagine that the user has decided to view the site in Italian. Now, because of those changes we made on the general fields page here, the title of the website is changed to the Italian value, the subtitle is changed to the Italian value, and those last three main menu items have been changed to their Italian values. There's also some elements of the website that will have translated values that the exhibit administrators do not have to provide. So these are things that will be in the base locale files, which are like UI elements that are generic and would be the same in any exhibit site in that language. So for example, this in English, this says search, and so this might be the translated Italian value. And that would just be provided by the locale file, not something the exhibit administrator has to provide. And then just to be clear how the changing languages works, here I've just switched into Spanish. So this is the same page we were just looking at, but now we're in Spanish. And the Spanish version, let's say in this example, they've only done one translation, the title of the website. They haven't done any other translations. These progress indicators change to reflect, 0 of all these things. And then back to what the exhibit visitor would see if this is public in Spanish, they would see the value that's been provided for the title, but everything else is still in English because the title has translated those fields. So that's the basic way the translations would work. And then looking at the other translatable fields and how they're grouped, metadata fields is the next category. And so these would be same layout, same approach to providing the translations for metadata fields. There would just be a list of all the metadata fields here. And again, we're showing the current default language value. So, these are the default labels for the metadata fields, but the exhibit curator can always override those display labels. So here they've, changed alternate title to something else. And then the input for the translated value. Search fields is very similar. It just groups, there's sort of 3 areas related to search that have editable field labels, and those are shown there. And then we get to the browse categories, and this is a little different because browse categories are essentially, they only have a title and optionally a description. And so if I use the same layout we were using here, it would just be a lot of titles, and it would be visually sort of cluttered and repetitive. And so in the interest of trying to make this as easy for the translator as possible to just go through and provide translations, we have this approach where we show the title of each browse category here with an input for the Italian, in this case, translation. If there is a description for a browse category, which there often is not, which is the reason we're showing this collapsed, then there's a expandable description section. And if the curator wants to provide a translation for a description, they would click on the description and get an expandable input box to provide the description, which I forgot to include in my mockup, so I can't show you. And then we get to pages. And so these are the homepage, feature pages, and about pages that are grouped into one category called pages. And the way this works is quite different because pages are very, they work very differently in terms of how the curators populate them compared to the other categories we looked at. The idea is there'll be a select menu at the very top that would show all the feature pages that are available on the site and all the about pages that are available on the site. And so the first step to translating pages is picking the page you want to work on. And once you pick the page you want to work on, we'll show some rendered view of that current page in the default language. I'm still working on the details of this, and because we have to think about all the different widgets we have and whether they should be interactive or not and how we represent them. But the basic idea is we could certainly show all the text as is for any widget that has text fields, which description paragraphs are the most common, but there's also sometimes captions that the curator can provide. Those would be translatable. So every element that's translatable has a translate button next to it. And when you click on the translate button, you get an expanded section that shows the current value for that field. So here, just to be clear, we clicked on the second paragraph here, this translate button. And so now we get this expanded, showing that text and providing an input for the translated value. When we save that, then that value would be immediately saved to the database. We'd show a checkbox next to it, like this one here, and show the translated value. So the curator can basically see the translation that they're making on the page as they go along and translate each translatable element. Yeah, and that is the plan for the multilingual feature.
So I'm going to demo some of the work that I've been doing in the past week on enhancing our autocomplete queries. And a lot of this work I paired up with Chris on and had discussion with him, so it's kind of shared work. And this is the ticket that was kind of in question before we started. And a lot of this required analysis at multiple different levels of our stack, and we've implemented changes in our custom Solar suggester. We've implemented changes in our content search application, and we've implemented changes in the universal viewer to improve autocomplete queries and results. But I first want to start off kind of with currently what we have and what we're starting with. When we start an autocomplete response here, like I type in I'm getting results that are actually sorted by kind of their appearance in the document. So the prosecutor is the first thing that comes up as a result there for me. And I think a user would maybe expect the frequency of the results to be kind of the way that these come back to them rather than their appearance in the document. And so we've made a change in Solar to accommodate that and to sort the results back in by their frequency of appearance. The next thing that you'll notice is when I type a space and I try to get the next thing, my autocomplete results stop. This is because Universal Viewer had was set up to only allow single word searches. We've made a change upstream in Universal Viewer, and that's been accepted. So now this is a configuration option. So I want to kind of show how this all works together. So here we have our same document with the updated Universal Viewer and the updated Solar suggester with some additional modifications to our content search application. So now when I type I start to see additional results come in here. When I add other search terms like CON, I get now the most frequently used single terms that relate to that term. And so I want to contrary to, and as I continue to type contrary and then to, I get more kind of focused terms there. So this is in, I guess, opposition to kind of what we had previously, where we would get these in kind of fragmented sections back, and we don't necessarily have that anymore. We're kind of have a little bit more focused and broader results back for autocomplete queries, and then hopefully this will enable users to better kind of search within the document themselves.
So over the last couple of weeks, we've been working on some data model changes throughout our infrastructure just to better support identifying content that is OCR-based content for material. And this is in support of getting our content search application into into production. So the eventual state here is we now have, with our data model, support for file-based roles. So you can see here we have our Alto XML document that has been tagged as being a transcription for the associated image. And what this allows us to do is in our administration interface, we're now able to search for things that have transcriptions, which is currently only the virtual tribunals data set. And this transcription then powers the IIIF autocomplete and search within services that allow us to build viewers based on the presence of those services. Before we made this change, we had a variety of heuristics to try to detect OCR text that were overly broad and often surfaced OCR text or documents that had OCR text, but the text quality was not sufficient to drive a content search experience. So we're hoping by having roles, we'll be able to better target documents that we want to create this behavior for.